Welcome to the first time in a long time to an episode of Access Granted. We're doing fine. It's been about 10 months and we haven't gone anywhere. Just been incredibly busy, and I've got Nick here with me. So we'll do a bit of a catch-up, shall we, Nick?
Yep, we sure have. We've been busy on other projects, Blake. It means that we haven't had time to be in the same room at the same time together, but it's good to be back.
So for the first time in a long time, but something that hasn't changed is the disability community is still being cracked on all over.
Yes, that is something that does not change, unfortunately. Disability community is still experiencing a really tough time from this government, and I think we're going to go through some of the examples. But yeah, this is certainly one of the constants of this government, and it started almost on day one when this government came in.
So we'll start with the more recent stuff and work our way back. So we've got the disability bill coming up, and I've been helping a particular person on a petition. How are you getting on with your work around that? I'm doing lots of work around that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, good. I mean, good from the perspective that I'm doing a lot of work around my presentation to the select committee. And I mean, this is probably one of the largest attacks on our rights as disabled people that we've seen for a very, very long time. And I think my encouragement to disability community, the deadline's already passed, so my encouragement was for every disabled person and an organisation that supports our community was to put your submissions in, and if you can, get in front of the select committee and tell them what you think of them. But yeah, this bill is pretty horrendous. I mean, it's an attack on our enabling good lives principles. It just completely reverses the enabling good lives principles. It violates our UN Convention, which is the thing that sits at the heart of everything that we do. It's a violation of the principle of natural justice for all of the families and whānaus that have gone through every layer of the court system and won every time. And now this government is just legislating right over the top of those victories. It's a massive ministerial power grab, which is, almost unprecedented. So it's going after our disability community at almost every level, and it's actually quite dangerous, to be honest. And I think it's something that not only disability community, family whānau should be worried about. It's something that almost every community should be concerned about, because if a government can do this to our community, they can do it to almost any community. So this is something that we should be very, very concerned, worried, and fight back against.
The first thing I want to touch on within this section is, RNZ, we helped RNZ with a report, me and the person behind the petition, around how the Ministry of Justice framed this piece of legislation. They said it was hurtful, but it was still appropriate. What do you think around
that? That it was appropriate,
yes,
to put the cost back on the carers.
Yes, they said it was discriminatory but appropriate.
Yeah. I mean, that's a technical legal argument, and I just feel that at this point in time, with the amount of stress that's on our families, that I think some of our families are at breaking point, given the amount of time and effort and money that our families are putting into the care for their not just young people but in some cases elderly disabled members.
Mm, mm.
To have a government just deciding that because in their mind it's going to cost too much to pay for that care to support those families, that they're just going to reverse the responsibility and place it back on families. I just think that's abhorrent, and I feel also that most members of our community would feel that's abhorrent,
Including myself,
and
yeah.
right. And it also goes back to an earlier point that I made that our courts have also determined that families should be supported in that care, and not only we're talking about the district court, the High Court, the Court of Appeal, and also the Supreme Court have made that ruling that families should be supported. Um, so our judiciary also supports that view. So this is a government that's making a decision that they don't want to support our families, and they're just so out of touch with families, with the society, with the judiciary, and I just think they need to be they need to be told that this is just wrong.
For the Ministry of Justice to come out and basically support this bill, well, as much as they can do, apolitically, legally, etc. Pretty extraordinary, isn't it?
Well, yes, it is. It is extraordinary in this case, but you see, the governments of different kinds. This government, other governments have done this in other cases. So it is extraordinary in this sense. But the government did this in the marine and coastal area instance, and other governments have done this in other situations. And this has caused mass protests. People have marched on the streets. Marine and coastal area bill caused the hikoi that marched its way all the way to Parliament and demanded change. So I feel like there's precedent for disability community, for families and whānau to get on the street and to march all the way to Parliament and demand that this Parliament put it right. Because
yeah, I'm talking more in terms of the Ministry of Justice actually saying it's all right to do. It's pretty extraordinary.
Oh yeah. See, this is the problem. Like when you get lawyers. I mean, a lawyer will tell you anything. Essentially, they'll make an argument to say that it's correct because you asked them to. So this is the problem when we get into legal arguments. If you instructed them to make an argument that it wasn't correct, then they would make that argument too. So there is a possibility to make that argument. It's open for making that argument.
So as Nick mentioned, we're a part of a group that's organising a protest, and they're going to be unions and all sorts of bits and pieces there on the 2nd of July. So we're really looking forward to being a part of that piece of work, aren't we, Nick? And it's been a pleasure to help the lady.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the type of issue that should get people on the street. I think that this is the type of issue when the government does this to a community that people should get really angry about, and they should really be marching on the street and telling the government to put it right and to make the change back to support our disabled families and whānau. Because this is just not right. It goes against everything we believe in as a society, and it just doesn't sit right as a community that a government would be doing this.
Do you think the fact that it was rammed under urgency is part of the problem? If it was better select committee and all of that it would have not been so much of a hit, or do you think it would have turned out this way regardless?
I mean, I think it probably would have turned out the same way regardless, but I think the fact that it was rammed through under urgency is just adds salt to the wound. I mean, governments are supposed to consult with disabled people through our representative organisations as a commitment under the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And the fact they snuck this one through under budget urgency in the dead of night just adds extra insult to injury, and just makes it even worse. It was like they were hiding it. They didn't want to let the public know what they were up to, and they just refused to have any form of consultation. And they rolled out the argument that, we're going to put it to select committee, and I mean, select committee is a form of public consultation, but I mean, the amount of people that are going to be able to submit are going to be tiny. I mean, I'm going to be one of them, but there will be very, very few people that will get that opportunity, and it's not in the process that disabled people expect. Disabled people expect to co-design the situations or the things that impact them. We have a saying in the disability rights community: "Nothing about us without us," and that means essentially that if the government is doing something that impacts our daily lives, we expect to have a seat at the table in order to have a say on those decisions, and this is clearly not happening in this situation.
For those of you watching on video, I'm surprised that Nick hasn't put his sign at a new office yet.
No, that's right. Maybe next month, hopefully, I might get back into my new office and I'll put the sign back up.
Oh, you're still not in your other room yet?
No, that's right. Maybe next month, Blake. We'll see. We'll see how we go.
So, and also while we've been away, we've been doing a lot of work around total mobility. So since we last spoke to the community many months ago, we've been going back and forth with Chris Bishop and fighting, and unfortunately it looks like the changes will be going ahead in a few weeks' time as we record this. And yeah, our work is so far, and we're not going to give up. I might clarify that so far our work is quite in vain, Nick.
Yeah, I feel sad. I feel really sad about this one. I mean, the work that we did was really about raising awareness that this change was going to happen, because I think, again, this was another situation where the government was just going to rush a set of changes through with very little consultation, very little information to the community. If anything, there was a lack of consultation and information to the community. So the work that we were doing was really just to raise that consciousness about what the government was doing, and how it would impact disabled people, total mobility card holders, and I think we can, although we didn't have the impact that we were looking for, we certainly raised the issue to the point where people now know what's going to happen, so from that perspective, I don't know how you feel about it, Blake, but I certainly take the perspective that people now know what's happening.
Oh, for sure. There are pieces of the work that I'm really proud of that we did. Because this was one of the first big, public campaigns for us, of many, and, it's been a really hard road. And hence one of the reasons why we haven't been able to do a lot of this type of stuff. I'll reference it because it's in your public article on your Substack, which people can find Nick on his Substack now. The fact that the minister admitted to us that he didn't even know what a social statement was quite concerning for a senior minister to make an admission of that level. And it's really concerning how much the ministers in this current administration are paying attention, getting the right stuff done. are you still startled by that? Because even a couple of months on, I'm still shocked to this day that I'm blown away that he didn't even know what a social, statement was.
Yeah, I am, Blake. I mean, the usually when they make changes like this, the ministries will perform a regulatory impact statement, which is a pretty technical document. It's pretty hard going in terms of the reading, but it does open the door in terms of the impact of the change, um, and it does show what um, impact there will be on the community that it's going to be focused on. And there is a fairly small section in each regulatory impact statement around impact on the demographic groups. So, for example, disabled communities. But I would have assumed that for this specific piece of work, because we are talking about disabled communities, and there really is no other community that's going to be impacted, that they would have done a larger piece of work, and that's what we're talking about here, which is the social impact analysis. Because when you stop people from accessing or limit the access to the total mobility scheme, it's not like that disabled people or card holders can just go and use another form of transport, which is a commonly held assumption. Card holders just stop using their cards. And then the next flow-on impact then is that the costs from that get transferred onto other parts of the health system and also the welfare system and other parts of government. So that is the problem, that analysis hasn't been done around what are the flow-on costs to other parts of the health system, the welfare system, and other parts of government. And it's that type of information that the minister really needs to see in order to justify the decision to cut the subsidy, because that type of information might actually tell the minister that there may be a flow-on impact which is significantly larger than the cost of cutting the subsidy. But he never ordered it and hasn't seen it. And it's that type of decision, and the fact that he doesn't even know what it is, and neither do his officials, is really quite concerning, because when you're sitting in the ministerial chair, you need to have all the information in front of you in order to make the best decision. And what that told me was that the minister hadn't asked for all the information and therefore hadn't received all the information in order to make the best decision.
The other thing that I found quite creepy during our work with the meeting with Mr. Bishop or the work in general is that when we went for that meeting after we'd spent the better part of nearly 6-7 months planning it, he kind of, and you referred to this in your article, he kind of, got a whole lot of people in there which you've never seen in your, 15-20 year career of doing this. And it's quite extraordinary that he really got a whole lot of people. And the fact that I found this, what I found more astounding was that he had a briefing paper on us both. That's another takeaway I had from our meeting.
Yeah, that's right, Blake. I mean, when I was on DPO executive leadership group or the governance board, we would regularly meet with the Minister for Social Development, the Minister for Disability Issues, and that was a regular meeting. And when we went in for those meetings, there would only ever be a private secretary in there and someone from the Ministry for Disability. No, sorry.
Whatever the
The
ministry
Office
was.
for Disability Issues. So there was only ever 2 staffers in the room. When we went in for that meeting, how many people were in that room, Blake?
Probably 5 or 6.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. There was more people in that room from government, more staffers than there were people, me and you, you know. So it was hilarious. Um, so what I read from that was that um, they were anticipating questions that the minister couldn't answer, and they needed to have staff in that room in order to answer the questions that the minister couldn't answer. So that's why they what I think the phrase I used in the Substack was they were staffing up for that meeting. So that was interesting. I'd never seen that before, in all my time in it. And the thing about the briefing paper, I thought that was interesting. They were obviously trying to do their homework, which is good. I mean, that's good. They should be doing that. But yeah, that's always a bit interesting to see a different approach. So they obviously wanted to know who they were meeting with. Although the minister does know you on a personal level, so it's not like he needs to do his research on you. So yeah,
Well,
but a very unusual meeting. Let's
well,
just put it that way.
to his credit, he probably had to do that because I wasn't affiliated to one particular party at the time when we knew each other. But
Well, no, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
but
Yeah, but no, a really really unusual meeting, and yeah,
the final point
yeah.
on this section that I wanted to cover was, and Bernard Hickey, our good friend, helped us with this. So if you're watching this later, thank you, Bernard. He helped us do the numbers, and it looks like, which we also talked to the minister, and he denied and blamed our previous administration, which is really quite extraordinary. That the whole seems to be about anywhere between 230 and $265 million, which is about the same to one of the landlords' tax cuts or tobacco breaks. And he said that they didn't have any more money around that region, so that was quite interesting. And again, thanks to Bernard Hickey for breaking that down for us.
Yeah, that's true, Blake. I mean, that's the naked political point. That's about choices that this government is making around where they invest. But I think there's another point, which goes back to the issue that we were just talking about before around the social impact analysis, and I think that point goes to the intention of total mobility is to allow people, total mobility card holders, to go to make trips, for example, to go to the doctor, to go to the supermarket, and to visit their friends in the community. And this is where, if the minister had the social impact analysis, what that would have told him was that by restricting or making more expensive total mobility, disabled people will be less likely to visit the doctor. They'll be less likely, or they'll make less trips to the supermarket. Therefore, they'll become more sicker, and therefore more likely to go and visit the doctor. And that'll have a flow-on impact into our healthcare system, and that will mean that we'll be spending more money in the healthcare system, and quantifying what that cost is actually really really important. So that's actually the cost that we need to know, and the minister needs to know, relative to the cost that the Ministry of Transport is saving by decreasing the expenditure into the transport budget. Because I'm willing to bet money that the increase in cost into the healthcare system by decreasing the total mobility spend will outstrip the savings into the transport budget. So that's the real, and that's where I'm going to start to look and start to get some hard numbers around the increase in usage through the primary healthcare system for disabled people, versus the decrease or the savings from the transport budget.
So we kind of have a bit of a counter policy, which we can't speak too much about, but what we can say is Labor has announced $20 fare caps and 10 in more rural areas, so that might help our community a little bit in the meantime, when it does come in next year. if we get elected, that is.
Yeah, that's right, Blake. I've been doing quite a lot of work with the Free Fares Coalition this year, and that's Free Fares came out earlier this month and said that the $20 fare cap is something that's really positive. And I mean, I agree with them. I think that certainly for suburban areas, I think that will be very, very useful, not just for disabled people, but for people who are community service card holders, for members of our elderly community, elderly gold card holders travel free anyway, so that doesn't matter. That subsidy won't apply to them, but certainly for community service card holders and for disabled people, that will be very, very useful for them. So I'm supportive of that policy. I think it's very, very good and well constructed, and I think that would be very good.
Just for anyone wondering, in case they're watching this, I'm going to put it in the comments, we don't know all the numbers and how it's going to affect disabled people and their cars and stuff. If we get time, we'll put it up. We'll either do an episode or we will definitely put it up on our social pages. So we will let you guys know when we know how it's going to affect total mobility and all of that kind of thing. Ain't it? When we get it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
The last thing I wanted to touch on for our catch up was I've been doing a lot of work the past nearly a year while we've been away on the helping people like Barbara Edmonds and Priyanka and a few of the other Labour colleagues around the New Zealand Post. We call it saga because it just keeps going on and on and on. And I've been working with our partners at the Greens, so people like Lawrence and Ricardo Mendes March around the social impacts around the closures for the New Zealand Post shrink down in the rural areas and suburban areas. And I've spoken to many officials and they seem to deem this appropriate. And I've spoken to you about this a bit off camera. So now that you've had a few days to digest my phone call at the time that we record this, how do you feel about it?
I mean, I think this is an issue that we're going to have to put some thought into around how we ensure services are made available for. I'm thinking particularly of rural communities, but right across the country, because it's quite clear that New Zealand Post is under a lot of pressure to maintain service. That will have to be an ongoing conversation between New Zealand Post and its shareholding minister, because New Zealand Post is obviously still a Crown entity, and it has responsibilities back to the Crown. But just thinking about it at the post shop level, which is obviously the level that most people interact with New Zealand Post at, it is really concerning that for most people outside of our big cities, continue to see their post shops and their banks withdrawing, and that's something that we're going to have to put some time into thinking about how we deliver those services in a way that and I'm going to use the word accessible here, but I'm going to use it in the sense of available. That if you go into your local town, you can walk into, roll into, make your way into a New Zealand Post shop or a place where you can post your letters, you can pick up your parcels, you can do your banking, and that might change. It might not look like it did 20 years ago, but we're going to have to figure out a way that we can do that, because for a lot of members of our disability community, our elderly community, that's the only way that they can pick up their mail. And like I said before, things might have to change in terms of the interaction and the way you do it, but just to be in a situation where that service is completely pulled out, I think it's just not acceptable, and I don't think that members of our community would find it acceptable either.
And we've had offers from people within the industry and union industry to meet up with us, so we may take up that offer, might we, Nick, and see what comes of that in the next few months leading up to the election.
So I know that the Postal Workers Union is very interested in this issue. I've spoken with members of that union, and they're very, very interested in this issue. So there's something that we should continue to work on.
Yeah. Are there any other highlights from the last 10 months or so that you wanted to touch on that we may have missed during our time away, positive or negative?
I attended the CTU budget lockup, and that was hosted by the Council of Trade Unions on Budget Day, and that was an event that the CTU hosted, but they brought together a bunch of different organisations. I think there was about 30 different organisations from the civil society and all sorts of different organisations that were facing similar challenges to the disability sector. And for me, that was a really an amazing event where, because oftentimes in the disability sector, when you're advocating for particular issues like total mobility, like the disability support bill, like the postal issue we've just spoken about, you feel like you're off on your own and you're not, you don't have many people to talk to and work together with. But on that day, it felt really, really positive to be with a bunch of people that from disparate organisations that were working in the same direction. So I feel like there are growing opportunities for collaboration and working together from different sectors, different organisations, different people. So that was a real highlight in the last few months, and I feel like we need to find opportunities to continue to do that.
We may not be around on YouTube as much as we used to, or wherever this might end up, but if people want to catch us, we will be on our local access radio, which anyone in the country can have access to now. No pun intended. Wherever they are in the country now. So we'll be starting that up. I'll be joining you for that very soon. Isn't that correct, Nick? And some.
That's right. Yeah, we'll be starting with our next episode in early July. So people should look out for that.
So yeah, and that's brought to you by the Labour Rongotai / Wellington Maize branch. So we appreciate their support. I just want to say, because it's also been made public, I'm really sorry you didn't make it on the list this time, Nick. But it's great to have been able to work with you for this last year to try our best to get you on the list this time. And I'm really disappointed that we didn't make it this time, but hopefully this isn't our work finished and it just makes us stronger for next time.
Thank you, Blake. I appreciate your comments. I think that's been the overall reaction from members of the disability community. They've been disappointed, but they've also been determined as well to ensure that there's a disability voice in our parliament the next time. So it's onwards and upwards and continuing with the advocacy and the fight.
Yeah. So anything else you want to say before we go next?
I just encourage people to get in touch and get involved in any issues that you're advocating on, and get in touch with either Blake or myself, and we'll be certainly wanting to help with any advocacy that people are getting involved in. And there's plenty of work to do. This government is, if I can say one thing about them, they're giving us plenty of work to do. it's not the sort of advocacy that we would have wanted, but they're certainly galvanizing us around what we don't like, and it's from that perspective it is bringing us together. So yeah, get in touch, and we can work together to figure out what a better future will
And
look
I've
like.
had a few comments about this, so I'm just going to touch on this for my closing comments. Even if the election doesn't go the way we're hoping for it to go, you can, and I'm sure Nick will agree with me on this, you can be reassured that regardless of what happens, me and Nick will continue fighting for you all. You know, if it has to be a second term, we will continue to hold into account. If our chosen party gets in a good bonus, but we'll make sure that we get, all of the work done for you guys as well. So either way, we'll still be here, and we'll keep fighting.
That's right. Thanks, Mike.
All right. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a good